Hi, and welcome to Minutes with McHale. My name is Dan McHale, and I am pleased to have Taurian Houston from Rice University Athletics on the show today. Taurian is the Senior Associate AD. Really excited for you to join me today, Taurian.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Really appreciate it.
No problem. We're going to have a lot of fun today, talk about a bunch of different topics. So, right off the top, Taurian, just tell me about yourself a little bit, about your journey, and kind of what your current role is at Rice these days.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dan. So great thing about, sports is it's played an integral role in my life from youth leagues all the way through college. Was fortunate enough to be a track and field student athlete at East Carolina University, where I actually got introduced to understanding athletic administration as a member of our student government. Had a chance to work with our AD on a lot of different initiatives and kind of first understanding of a college realignment at that time as ECU was moving amongst conferences. So it was a really great experience. I was fortunate enough to then go on to law school, where I got my first crack at a role in the industry at UNC Charlotte, and had a chance to work in the ticket office and was able to leverage that opportunity into a role working with the senior administration, specifically in compliance, where I got a full kind of full course in understanding NCAA compliance and what the rules were to the game, and was fortunate enough to then use that experience to go on to the NCAA, where as a postgraduate intern and understanding things from the 30,000-foot level, working with all matters within the NCAA compliance realm, Division I all the way through 3. Was able to move on to Dartmouth and then Colgate University, where I got another chance at administration, being elevated and being able to work, and that's where I really grew that desire to become an athletic director. And is fortunate enough of coming into my 5th year here at Rice, where now I can really see my impact being made. And when I look back over the course of my career, each stop served a great purpose and gave me a great lesson. And I continue to apply those lessons in my daily pursuits here as a member of the senior staff.
Oh, that's terrific. It's a beautiful place. I was fortunate to coach there a couple times. One time in Eastern Kentucky, as well as when I was at New Mexico. What a beautiful campus, beautiful city, just a first-class university. As we get older, we're educators in the industry. We always want to help younger people. What advice would you give to somebody trying to break in to college athletics, even more specifically the compliance side, which you oversee, and just kind of some tips for the younger graduates out there?
Yeah. So I'll use a piece of advice that I actually got from the previous athletic director at East Carolina, old basketball coach, Coach Terry Holland. And so he told me a long time ago, never get too big to fit through the smallest window of opportunity. And what he meant by that was there are going to be chances for you to be able to have a conversation with someone or be able to take on an assignment or be presented with a challenge, and never feel that your title or your experience limits you or prevents you from being able to take advantage of that opportunity or being able to move forward in that space. And so that piece of advice has helped so much because, as things have been, as I've progressed throughout my career, and there have been opportunities for me to maybe take on a challenge that, nobody else wants, or, it seems too, too massive in order to accomplish. I've always taken that as an opportunity to pursue that, because I realize that's an opportunity. It may be a small window. It may be something it seems almost impossible to achieve, but if I'm going to take the risk, and I think that's where compliance comes into the space of taking risks and being able to advise appropriately. That's always been something that I pass on to young people, because in this space, there's going to be a windows of opportunity. There's going to be the off chance phone call, or maybe that 5-second window that you have in the elevator with a senior administrator. Take advantage of that. Be prepared. Be ready with your elevator speech, if you will.
Right.
But never feel as if that, I'm going to wait for the perfect time, because there's never going to be a perfect time. It's only the perfect scenario, which is you're there and that opportunity is there and you make it happen.
No, that's exactly right. Moving up the ranks in the college basketball world, you always have to continue to remember where you came from. The old adage is when you become a head coach, you got to keep recruiting like you're an assistant coach. And that's definitely held true. When I was a head coach at EKU, you always have to keep staying sharp, keep staying ahead of the curve, but always never forget. I was fortunate to be the 21-year-old grad assistant on Rick Pitino's first staff at Louisville. And I look around that conference room, and it was Kevin Willard to my left, Mick Cronin to my right, Coach Pitino right in front of me. And you just remember the impact you have at a young age, and you don't want to change. And that's something that the advice I give people all the time, whether they're looking to get into coaching or college administration, you just have to be who you are and not forget where you came from. So no, you're exactly right. That's kind of where this whole thing is going. I mean, my next question is, what do you think the biggest issues are now facing college athletics and student athletes as a whole in general?
Yeah, I'll say something that, we're continuing to try to manage is the impact of mental health and how that has a trickle-down effect in all these other areas. But I think ultimately that serves as kind of the key component that we have to focus on. How do we ensure that young people who were affected by the pandemic in so many different ways, who are now coming into your space as student athletes, how do you help them navigate this new world of college athletics as you think of NIL, as you think of conference realignment, as you think of different competition levels and the NCAA Transformation Committee looking at how scholarships are going to be viewed, how rosters are going to be viewed, the impact of sports sponsorship and institutions making decisions to determine how they're going to invest in the space. Ultimately, mental health is going to be something that plays a critical factor, because if somebody is dealing with depression or anxiety or any particular issue that they were not able to deal with prior to college, if you go from playing 30 minutes a game to not playing at all, how does that impact? And it impacts all these other spaces, and not only for student athletes, but we think about it for staff as well, as we start to stress our staffs on trying to do more in the space of recruiting, in the space of service, and trying to provide an experience for young people. They're being stretched as well. And are we accounting for that when we're recruiting these coaches and staff to come and then be stewards for our young people? Exactly. So, it's interesting because kind of that's the umbrella issue that I see is facing, but there's so many other things that fall underneath that. And, like I alluded to with name, image, and likeness being one. If people if they struggle with the image of themselves coming into college, then how can we expect themselves to be able to make this a financial opportunity in order to generate some revenue for them? We have to start with that. And then how do we, once we build a positive brand recognition for themselves, then, okay, how do you leverage that to make connections with companies that are going to help you not only while you're here in college, but after you graduate and you move on to professional ranks, whether that's in your sport or in other arenas? Yeah,
no, you're right. You're 100% right. I mean, mental health is something that needs to be on the forefront of all of our plates, college athletics, and it's doing a really good job focusing on it, but you just never know what that student athlete's thinking, especially with the added pressures these days. So, we talked about NIL a little bit. Let's just close with one last question. NIL and the ever-changing market right now. What are your thoughts on it? Where's it going? How are you guys doing it at Rice right now?
Yeah, so it's finally here to stay. We've been talking about it for quite some time, Dan, and I'm actually a big fan of NIL. And what I constantly tell our student athletes is NIL isn't new. You're new to NIL, and so in thinking about that, it's this understanding that there are still parameters in this space that are going to be kind of key components that you need in order to lead to success. Understanding the market, understand your brand, understand how you want to associate yourself with certain brands. And for us, it's about education. And, interestingly enough, Texas requires that for our NIL law, that we provide financial literacy and brand management as a part of name, image, and likeness. But it was education and really connection. How do I get connected? How do I enter this space? How do I make sure I know what's a good deal? How do I know what's a good relationship for me and what I want to build? And so in the last year, we've invested in this space with several different partnerships one with the Brander Group, another one with Open Doors for a marketplace where we spend a good amount of time with our student athletes, educating them on name, image, and likeness. How do you understand a contract? How do you make a pitch to a company in order to be an ambassador? How do you appreciate if you have a deal and you have an opportunity to come up and look at things because you've made an impact on that company in a positive way. Right. And we've really seen that benefit because now our student athletes are now in a situation where the old adage of you're not giving them a fish, to eat for a day, you're teaching them how to fish so they know how to eat for a lifetime. Exactly. And that's what we want to really stress is that, somebody can give you a deal and you don't necessarily value it in that moment. But if we teach you the tools to understand what you bring to the table inherently, now you're able to go in, and it's not just for NIL. It's for the first job interview that you have. It's for making connections with alumni for different opportunities post-Rice. And so that's what we've really invested in, and we've seen a great benefit for our young people here.
NIL right now is growing and changing, but it's for the betterment of college athletics. And to see these young men and women get prepared for the real world while they're in college, I mean, that's invaluable. It really, really is. So we're excited to see where it goes. I think it's going to be more and more opportunities for our student athletes to capitalize on it, and it's great for the game and great for the growth. So, but that's fantastic, Taurian. I really enjoyed catching up with you today. I'm excited about your journey and your rise at Rice and what lies ahead, and just really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Absolutely, Dan. Appreciate you having me. All the best, and I look forward to just staying connected.
Absolutely. Well, he's Taurian Houston, the Senior Associate Athletic Director at Rice, and I'm Dan McHale with SRI Collegiate Search. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.